And with me on the show this morning, I have the Member of Parliament for the Prampram constituency, Samuel Nate George. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Randy. You omitted one town. It's Ningo Prampram.
Ningo Prampram. Ningo Prampram.
If they split it, then we'll see how.
Split it.
They are thinking of creating new constituencies, so we're waiting to see.
What will be the case for it? Will it be population? Will it be size?
Population size. You know, population size.
How many?
First you look at the voter population. Right now, voter population is almost 100,000. 100,000 on the register. As for residential population, we clearly have crossed 300,000 people, because I mean there's a huge migration to that part of town.
So
and then land mass.
At which point in time are we going to stop creating constituencies?
You should ask the president, because so long as the president keeps creating district assemblies, you need to commensurately create constituencies. So presidents just have to stop it. We need to stop the political gerrymandering. We need to be able to say that we want to have 200 constituencies, designate them properly. Because Randy, it makes no sense that in a region, you have a constituency where the total voting population, voting register, is just 15,000. 1.5. And in another constituency, you have 150,000. I mean, the disparity.
And they are adjoining constituencies?
Not necessarily adjoining constituencies, but you have adjoining constituencies that have 150,000 and another one has maybe like 40,000. Okay, so, and these are supposed to be MPs getting the same resource, expected to do the same job. The imbalances, are things that I still don't understand. So, or take, for example, my constituency, where my voting register is about 100,000. Then you have Sege next to me, which has a voting register of about just 30,000. Then you have Ada, which has about another 40,000. These are the ones that bother
So
me.
Instead of creating a new constituency,
realign and open up
yes,
and stretch. So those are things you can do. But you see, again, you want to look at the landmass. You look at constituencies like Shayo Sudoku and how fiscally spread out the constituencies. Ningo Prampram. I mean, people are shocked when I tell them that just after you cross Michelle Camp on the Kosombo Road, after Kakasunaka, you've entered my constituency all the way to my boundary at Odunse with Dodowa. It's just huge. And all of that is the constituency going all the way towards the Shire Hills, Afienya and all of that. Then you come down to Prampram and Dawenya all the way to Committee 25. Then you come to Ningo all the way to Dawa. So it's just a large spread of how it is. So I mean, these things we need to be careful. We need to take a decision and say this is the number of constituencies we want to have. But so long as creation of constituencies are a function of political gerrymandering, you keep seeing constituencies being created. And so long as there are motivations for creation of new district assemblies, you would always have these agitations. I mean, I know that there are some agitations that my district assembly, for example, should be split, so that you have a Prampram district and you have a Ningo district, because...
So let me just understand this. The issue of creation of new districts leading to the creation of new constituencies, is it because by law, no constituency should straddle two districts?
Absolutely.
So that's the reason.
That's the reason.
It is not because once there is a new district, there must be new constituencies.
So you cannot
the political gerrymandering suggests that the districts are so created in such a way that
it influences the creation of a constituency.
Yes.
So take, for example, I mean, you've looked at some of the creations that were done in the last creation. You would have expected to see some places get districts and some places invariably get constituencies, but that doesn't happen. So as it stands now, what you see is if the people of Ningo are successful in their demand for their own district assembly, and they get a district assembly, you cannot have one MP straddle two districts, because then you have a Ningo district assembly and a Prampram district assembly. So you can't do that. So what would then happen is that once a Ningo district assembly is created, you need to then split the constituency as well and have one constituency. In one district, you can have two constituencies. In one district, you can have two constituencies. But you cannot have two districts in one constituency. So that's where the problems come. So, and that's why I keep saying, that's why I said it is about the precedents. Because the creation of districts...
That's what brought the SAL issue.
Yes, the creation of districts is a function of the executive. The creation of constituencies is a function of the electoral commission.
Yes.
So when the executive wants to gerrymander, wants to create, then they create a district. So once they create a district, then the EC is compelled to create a constituency. And like you pointed out, that's what's created a problem where, for the first time in the history of this country, we have a parliament that a whole group of Ghanaians, a whole geographical area, have no representation in parliament. Santrofi, Akpafu, Lolobi, and Lipe, these four communities do not have a representation in government. So clearly, it appears as though they are not Ghanaians.
And now, before you respond, I know you're tempted to respond to some of the things said, but before you respond, there was an interesting thing we're discussing. And once again, I'll follow on your experience as a 4-time MP. This thing of creation of new constituencies. We started at, was it 1, 2, 3? We started at 123 or so.
We started at 200.
200? In 93?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay. 200? I thought it was 123 rather. Okay. So we are now at 275.
Yeah.
And it appears that with the way some districts have been created and the fact that there are still communities clamoring, especially traditional authorities, for their own districts, because it appears that when you have your own district, it comes with some amenities. You will have a district hospital, you have district, I mean, at least education and health will all have to decentralize and create district offices and all those things in your places. And it also appears that in the Fourth Republic, most governments have used the power to create districts to also engage in political gerrymandering, which then requires the Electoral Commission to create new constituencies. And that's where we are. And Sam and I were just looking at some of those scenarios where you have adjoining constituencies, where, for example, one constituency has 100,000, the adjoining constituency has maybe 30 or 40. And perhaps instead of putting the two constituencies together and recreating the boundaries in such a way that, for example, you can maybe hive off 30,000 to the one that has 40, we would rather create two constituencies out of the one that has 100 and add up, to the numbers. And the question is, at which point are we going to stop? Because the politicians are going around, the traditional authorities and their people are asking for district capitals or their own districts. The politicians, for the reasons we know, would want to honor those promises. They honor those promises. The law says that no constituency should straddle between no two constituencies must straddle one district, and therefore we'll have two districts will straddle one constituency. So a constituency cannot fall within two districts. And then once that is done, the Electoral Commission will be forced to create new constituencies. At which point are we going to stop and say that, as a country, this is the number of constituencies that we're going to have?
Yeah, it's a difficult issue. And it should not be a difficult issue, but we politicians have made it a difficult issue. But before I give my comments on that, my brother here was reminding the president and the government about promises. It's in order. He should, because those promises were made. And I'd like to assure him that those promises will be fulfilled. So he should rest assured. He should keep reminding us, it is good, it is his job that it will be fulfilled. The government is only 6 months or so in office. And it's still getting itself together. And they will be done. Because what the records show is that, as for Sam George, his first loyalty is to his party, the parochial political party that's where his loyalty is. So when I hear him talking about issues affecting Ghana, I get a little surprised.
Saul had an encounter before he became Paul.
Yeah.
Yes.
But has he had it?
I told you that he's just been ordained as an elder.
Can I respond to that?
Which church?
What miracle?
Can I respond to you? To this issue?
Yeah, respond.
You know, Randy.
In fact, the next time, please change his
please, Randy.
his tag. So it should read Honorable Elder Sam Nate George.
This mischief is.
Oh,
your mischief.
Are you
is
not
on
called
flake.
Elder at church?
But you see,
You
Nana.
mean he's called elder,
Nana.
Yes,
but he's not an elder.
he's another. He's been ordained. I
He's
saw the
confirmed.
pictures.
Confirm it, so we congratulate you. It's okay.
Oh, why? Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem?
I don't know.
Well, yes, I have been ordained an elder of church in church, and that's because of the work I do in the church. So yes, so that match is there. But you see, Nana,
Congratulations.
you see, part of the reason why I qualified to be ordained an elder is because I have chosen not to be hypocritical.
Okay.
Because hypocrisy is one of the major banes of this country. You want to sit here and paint a picture of yourself as being nationalistic. Tell me how many times you, even since the time you were in parliament, disagreed with your party when your party took a position and the opposition NDC held a contrary position. You have always aligned with your party, but you want to come and sit here and paint a picture, hypocritical picture that you love Ghana. Why? If I love NDC, what are the ambitions of the NDC? Are the ambitions of the NDC to destroy Ghana? Are the ambitions of the NDC not to have a better Ghana? So if I ascribe to the positions of the NDC, am I not ascribing to a better Ghana? No. Because I failed to toe the hypocritical lines of many politicians in this country who paint a picture to the ordinary Ghanaian that they love Ghana more than their parties, when in truth and in action, they don't show that love. They are always partisan. Nana is sitting here. Bring the issues right now. We'll go into the issues. You will see whether Nana is going to support the NDC's position against the NPP's position. And he should show me his track record.
Have you finished?
From 16 years of you in parliament, show me once when you took a position in the interest of Ghana against the NPP. Okay. Once. If you show me that one,
you said you're giving me a short answer.
I'm landing. If you show me that one, I'm just exposing the hypocrisy of yourself and many politicians. Okay. Yes, I love my party. Yeah. I will continue to ascribe to the positions of my party because I believe my party means well for Ghana and is the best vehicle for a better Ghana.
You know, Randy, the man has contradicted you. So that's why I said you should be calm. Randy, he has said that he has not moved from that position. You were trying to convince us that he has moved. I was telling you, be calm. Now the man has spoken. He says that he's still there. For him, it is his party first. That's it. Now, the matter that you raised, Randy.
Yes.
You know, we all know that democracy is expensive. Now,
I thought you were going to give me one example where you took a position against the NPP. That showed you put Ghana ahead of the party. I thought he was going to show me even one.
Let's move on.
One in your 16 years in parliament.
Randy is tired of you.
So also that Randy says you should move on. So you won't give me the one chance.
Randy.
Oh my goodness.
Randy, yes.
Randy, thanks for saving him, man.
No, I was going to deal with you, but Randy is tired of you. He said we should move on. So he's tired of you.
So you allow the hypocritical tag to stay?
No, I just want Randy. I want to indulge Randy. So Randy, this matter that you raised, like I said, democracy is expensive, but we should not make it too expensive. Or we should not make it unnecessarily expensive. We should still cut our coats. Or cut our, what do you call it? Cut your cloth according to your size. You know, we started with 200 seats in Parliament. Then it was increased to 240, I think.
235.
Increased to 235?
I think it was 230 and then the NDC created 45.
Okay, so it was increased to 230 in the Kufuor government. And then the NDC came and they added another 45. So now we have about 275. For me, we should have stayed at 200 seats. We should have stayed there. So both political parties are guilty of using this creation of districts to create constituencies because there's some perceived political gain out of it. You know, if you took the constituency in which I used to serve, Okankwe in Accra, there used to be Okankwe North and Okankwe South.
Yes.
I think you lived in Achimota, so you.
I was in Okankwe South.
No, Okankwe
North rather,
yes,
North.
My constituency.
Not
is the
Kaneshi or
South.
South. Yeah.
Yes. Now it stretches from Niboy, those who know Accra a bit, Niboy, right up through Abeka Market, New Fadama, North Kaneshi, you know, Abeka Junction. This is the Okankwe Tesado. This is the Okankwe. And it's been divided into two, Okankwe North, Okankwe South. The South, Tesano, a bit of Tesano, Abeka Junction, Kwame Nkrumah Circle, Aveno, industrial area, Bubuashi, Kaneshin, Awudome. That's the South. And the North is from Abeka Market up to Niboy Town, Achimota, and so on. Then they decided to cut it into 3 instead of 2.
Create a central out of it.
Create one more constituency. Yeah. And they call that constituency Central. Now, you would think that if you have 2 constituencies like this, meeting like this, and you wanted to create a Central, you take
a bit from here,
and a bit from here, because that's the center.
So the 2 border the center.
So the North and the South and the center. That's what you would think. But that's not what was done. What was done was that the Okankwe South, which is here, remained intact.
Oh.
The Okankwe North, they carved out some part of Okankwe North and called it Central.
Oh.
In a clear case of gerrymandering.
Did they take a bit of Ayawaso West Wagon?
No.
Okay.
No.
So they just split.
They just split Okankwe North
Okay.
and called it Central in Okankwe, and it's still Okankwe. Because if you're going to do Central, then the New Fadama North Kaneshi should be added to the Abeka Market area, because that's the area in the center.
Abeka Market, Abeka Junction.
Abeka Junction.
Tesano.
Not even Abeka Junction, but Abeka Market, that whole area. Then coming to New Fadama. It's a huge area. New Fadama, and then North Kaneshi. That's the center of the Okankwe. But anyway, and I'm sure there are many such examples. But my point is that these constituencies don't add anything to democratic representation. They just increase cost for us. NPP did it. NDC did it. And so now we have 275 constituencies. An increase from the 200. Ideally, what we should be looking at, and so because of this situation, you have constituencies where there are 30,000, and you have constituencies where there are 150,000. What we should be looking at as a country, if we can get a political will, what we should do is divide the country equally.
How?
If it's 200 constituencies, divide the country equally into 200 parts, equal population. Then there's equity. But
what
now,
would you use, population or land
population,
size?
Just population. Lands don't vote. You don't represent land, you represent people. So an area may be vast, but it's the people that you represent. And I believe that measure is more logical and has more equity, because then you represent, I mean, this Sam George represents 100,000 people. And then somebody represents 40,000 people. And he and Sam George are going to have the same weight in terms of what's that?
Because in fact, you know, one of the Ablekumes, I remember at that time, Josiah, he had over 30,000, but he couldn't win. And there were other MPs who came to Parliament with 11,000
That's what I'm saying.
and 10,000.
No,
So-
recently, jokingly, I said to one MP that my margin of victory is bigger than his entire register.
But he has this,
But
so,
you get it. So,
so I'm saying we've made democracy unnecessarily more expensive with all these constituencies. And it will look like the constituencies the increases came out because there was thought of some advantage. I remember there was a major fight in Parliament in 2012 with the new 45. That there were days when Parliament had to sit on Sunday because some of these instruments that came needed a certain maturity. So even Sunday, Parliament, even though nobody will go, but you've been called, so it's a parliamentary day. I mean, the somersaults that we went through to create those new 45. And at the end of the day, I think the NPP even got more. A majority of the, so really, all that giddy was nothing. So I agree with you totally that we need a cap. I think the framers of the Constitution imagined that politicians is not everything that you want to specify, but that there will be good faith. And so politicians themselves will be measured. But the record after so many years doesn't seem so. So if there's a constitutional amendment that will put a cap, I would support it totally. On many of these things, whether it's appointments, whether it's constituencies, put a cap on it because it doesn't look like there's going to be a stop. Anybody comes and feels that I'll get some advantage if I carve out some 10 new constituencies.
So what you then do is to go and create a district. But then when you create a district, you create a situation
this is what I'm saying.
where the EC is compelled to now come and create a constituency.
This is what has happened. So if you are not careful, in another 15, 20 years now, we can end up with 300 constituencies.
or more.
And it's a cost to the taxpayer. So I agree with you entirely. And I would support any amendment that will say that we're going to put a cap on some of these things. So it doesn't then depend on the whims of a political party or a politician. I'll be entirely for it.
You know, Randy, just a quick one. And I mean, myself and Nana appear to be largely on the same page on this, even though I'd made my submissions before he came. But you see, at times, the current situation even leaves a lot more problems. And that's why I would support a suggestion that says, let's equally distribute the weights, you know, across board. Because as we sit now, I'll give you a typical example of my constituency. My constituency and Shayo Sudoku. You have communities that are in Shayo Sudoku under the administrative demarcation of constituencies. But those constituencies traditionally are in Ningo.
Yes.
So it creates all kinds of problems over who is controlling what, and because you have the people who are supposed who pay allegiance to the Ningo Traditional Council. They sit in the Traditional Council. They do everything with Ningo, but they are being asked to vote there. So many of them would invariably cross into Ningo during the election and register in neighboring communities. So then what's the sense in adding them there? And there are even instances where you drive through, if you take Akosombo, Esojaman,
Yes.
and Northtown,
Yes.
Okujeto and Ampem's place.
Yes.
You drive through Ampem's constituency,
Yes.
enter Okujeto's constituency,
Yes.
go back into Ampem's
Yes.
constituency. I mean, all kinds of...
Anytime I'm going to Pando,
Yes.
on the stretch to Esikuma,
Esikuma.
you see that.
You see it.
So there is Ampem, and then you see
Okujeto, then you go back
then
and see
there's
Ampem.
And then even on the Adan Road, on the Sugakope Road,
Sugakope
from
Road,
Adan
yes.
to Sugakope, then you will find Okujeto
Okujeto
there as
there as well. Yeah, I mean, it is because for me, I have Odunse, I have Sota, which are all Ningo communities, which are all have been put under Shayo Sudoku. I have Agoto, which is also a Ningo town that's been put under Shayo Sudoku. So you keep getting calls from the chiefs call you because they feel that you are the MP for Ningo. However, administratively, they are not under Ningo. So if you are going to keep looking at the traditional requests from traditional councils, from traditional people saying, we want this, we want that, and the politicians don't draw a line, in responding to all of these requests, you will end up having, we will end up with 500 constituencies at the rate at which we are going. Because everybody thinks that so long as they make the right agitation and make the right push, you're going to have the constituencies, the district created for you. Once you get the district, it means now we choose our own DC. Because there's a fight over, if you have 2 traditional areas, 3 traditional areas, they will tell you most of the DCs have come from one traditional area. So this other traditional area wants to have theirs. Education office and all the offices and how they create, there's a perception that they create jobs for indigents of the places. And so that's what drives the demand for the districts. And when those demands come, then you force the hand of the EC. Again, when you say we are forcing the hand of the EC, let's be honest with ourselves. The EC doesn't have 100% control over the creation of constituencies. The political parties still get involved in
I
the
think what we have
gerrymandering
there is
process.
Ashanti region, right?
Yes. And you see, Randy, the case of Ashanti region is very telling. You know, there are people, watchers of our democracy, who say that, look, for a region that is not your most populous region, but has your highest number of constituencies, the Ashanti region has about 9 or 11 more constituencies than Greater Accra.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Apart from the fact that this was sheer political gerrymandering. Because you're looking at the fact that you want to have a certain control in the legislature. It makes absolutely no sense.
Can we see Greater Accra too?
Yeah, if they can show you Greater Accra. Because right now, Ashanti region has, I think, 45 constituencies or 47. 47 constituencies. Greater Accra has 34. So there's a disparity of 13 constituencies. Whereas Greater Accra is your most populous region. So you want to understand how, and then you look at the population of Greater Accra and the population of Eastern region. Eastern region has 33 constituencies.
See,
and Greater Accra has 34.
That's where
so
the
this is all
argument,
political gerrymandering.
Nana made a point about population.
Yes.
People are elected to represent
People, not landmass.
Not landmass. But you'd see that in all of this discussion, there's a combination of people and landmass as a basis.
Because what you invariably see is, if you look at the Eastern region and the Ashanti region alone, you take 47 and 33. 80. That's 80 constituencies. That's making up almost 30 to 35% of your entire parliament. 2 regions. You understand me? And so it is people I would support.
But the question then is that, do those 2 regions also give you? So that's Greater Accra. So
yes.
Do those 2 regions?
So you saw Ashanti region,
yes,
and saw how the clustering of the land spaces were
so
in the creation of the districts, and see the
size of Ningo Prampram.
Ningo Prampram and Shai Osudoku.
But this is about land.
Yes.
Not people.
Yes. You get it.
If you took people, you see some of the smaller areas even having more people than some of the bigger areas. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so for me it is, and I mean, look.
But so my question is that
look at Greater Accra, Randy. Sorry.
Yes.
Look at from Ponkatamanso, what we call the Eastern Corridor, the 5 constituencies that make up the Eastern Corridor. Yeah. Ponkatamanso, Shai Osudoku, Ningo Prampram, Adan West, and Adan East. That is almost like 50% of the size of the region.
But we are not talking about land.
No.
This is land.
Yes. But you see, Nana.
This is not people.
Nana, I get you. But are you telling me that if we took the Ashanti region right now and looked at the demarcations that have been done, it justifies the people
we
discussion?
We have said that this constituency.
It does not.
So my question to you.
It does not.
My question to you, when you put the Ashanti and Eastern together, my question to you is, if they represent 30 to 35% of 275 in Parliament,
yes,
do the 2 regions also have about 30 to 35% of Ghana's population?
No. Okay. So that's where the problem is.
You know where it's even worse? I mean, this thing is nationwide.
Yes.
But it's just mischief.
What is mischief?
Trying to focus on Ashanti and this thing.
See,
that's why I said that. Have a national discussion. Because if you went to other areas, it's even worse. We're talking about 11,000 per constituency. You know. Have a national discussion. But typical St. George, who believes in the NDC more than Ghana, He's trying to be mischievous because he believes that these two regions are the strongholds of the NPP. So he's focusing on them. But this thing is all over the country.
Your colleague in Parliament, the Honorable Eugene Boachientry, he says he disagrees with you. He says it's not true that Greater Accra is the most populous. Tell Sam George to wait for the census report.
Maybe he knows something that's going on in the census with the census work.
Is Greater Accra more populous than Ashanti?
Yes. Even take the last voters registration we did. Take the last voters registration we did. The current voters register we have. Greater Accra is your most populous.
The only thing is that the voters register.
When you say Greater Accra,
yes,
Accra
itself,
your areas and so on, we are very, very sparsely populated. But Accra itself. But you see, this thing is nationwide. If you went to the north, it's even, you can't understand. Some constituencies, 11,000, even though they have land. And they will tell you, it's difficult to commute. But you are representing people, not land. And if we can have the political courage to say we are going to divide the country into equal portions by population, so that there will be equity, so that you don't have one constituency with 14,000 people and another constituency with 150,000 people. Those 150,000 people will obviously deserve more constituencies. And then, in our effort to do these haphazard demarcations for districts and for constituencies, you end up with this logoligi that we're talking about. And so many people don't even know their constituencies. They will tell you they live at Abeka, but they don't know whether they fall into this constituency or that constituency because it changes. That's another thing that Sam George, you people have to look at. The signage for constituencies. The signage. It should be possible. Maybe MPs, you have a bit of common fund. Maybe you can do it. Maybe you should do it and let your colleagues see. Maybe they can also follow. They should be able to
where your boundaries are.
Where your boundaries are. So
I think the assemblies, when I drive around Accra, I see that the assemblies, especially the new municipalities and others, they try to.
You know the problem with that.
Living. Yeah.
You know the problem with that. Take for example my place. Right now there is a growing battle between the Ningo traditional, the Prampram traditional council, and the Ponkatamanso traditional council. Over where the boundaries. So if you see when you are on that stretch, when you're on the road, you see there's the picture of a billboard with a picture of Nene Tetewaka, the paramount chief of Prampram, welcoming you and saying goodbye to you. The Pom people say he must move his billboard, that place is Pom. But as far as we are also, the traditional council has informed me, our boundary is at Pombaria. So all of that place is Ningoland.
But haven't these things been determined already?
So now when even your traditional councils have a dispute over where the boundary is, where do you go and put the signage?
But at least when the both of you should help me. When they bring this district and constituency bills before Parliament, are the boundaries not stated?
They are stated.
They are. Yes, they are.
You see, but that's why I said those are administrative boundaries for purposes of conducting elections.
Yeah, but at least you are MP for a constituency.
Yes.
So defined by law.
Yes.
So you know your boundaries.
So you know. But it's even beyond, Sam George, constituencies don't necessarily correspond with traditional areas.
Yes.
So the traditional people can have their dispute, but you know your constituency boundaries. The people who vote for you know because of the polling stations. And so this can be an outlier. But generally, there are many people who don't know the name of their constituencies. I meet a lot of people who come to me and ask them, which is your constituency? Say, oh, I live at... then they mention
the area where they live.
Then I have to figure out which place they have. So if you can have signages, especially along the boundary.
It's a good idea.
So the last time I told you that one of my things, until the paperwork, I didn't know that was, I thought it was Prampram.
Prampram, no, it's Ponkatamanso.
But everybody, it's Prampram, it's Prampram.
Even in Accra,
you
are Chado.
Yes.
Chado is La.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And it borders Teshi lands.
It borders Teshi.
And there's always You know, on that bit.
Yeah.
Always tertiary people say, oh, this is ours. Last say, no, this is ours.
But that's tertiary. But the constituency is defined because of the polling stations.
You know, there was even a little confusion as to where Okoboy, a part of Okoboy's billboard was, where he believes is part of his.
Yeah.
And then Odole
also,
also believes that no,
that is my place.
that is her place. But so where to even cite
the billboards?
The booth.
The booth becomes a problem.
Became a problem.
Okay. But generally, I mean, if you say Okoboy's constituency, and you say because we also don't
Stop calling Okoboy's constituency, now Ayiku's constituency.
But we are talking about Okoboy. Chief.
I was referring to 2020.
We are talking about Okoboy.
It's now Ayiku's constituency. Even though he's an MP for that area, he's from
politicians.
So when was he made an elder? When?
Well, a few months ago.
A few months, okay. So it's still a work in progress.
Yes.
How?
That was after his masters in peace and conflict resolution.
Dr. T is adding fire.
He actually has the masters in peace as well.
Yes, and conflict resolution.
Okay.
We'll be back shortly.